Welcome to your January 18th new moon in Capricorn astrology forecast. This year, 2026, is set to be a huge year astrologically, and it has definitely started off with a bang in January with so many things going on that are like once in a lifetime astrological events, and this new moon is no different. So we are going to get into how this new moon is a really pivotal moment. This is the first new moon of this new year, 2026, and it is definitely a big one. So we are going to be getting into that and all the conversations that this new moon is having. If you are new here, welcome. I'm Sarah at Life with Training Wheels, where I utilize tools such as astrology, tarot, other natural health and spiritual tools to help you regain your sovereignty, regain your authority over your own life, and realize that you are the creator of your own life. You are the creator of how you perceive this world. You are a creator of whether or not you choose to live in victim mentality or you choose to take your life by the horns and direct it where you want to go. And I am here to help you do that, to help you release any of the patterns or programming that is keeping you small and keeping you in victim mode and not realizing your true potential and your true power. So if that is something that sounds up your alley, then I'd love to have you continue joining me. If you're new here, again, welcome. Thank you so much for joining. And if you are returning, thank you so much for returning. If you can engage with this video in any way, give it a like, a comment, subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. And so if you are new here, how I go about these new and full moon readings is I just simply start with what a new and a full moon kind of represents, what sign it is currently in, as that gives it the overall flavor, and then from there build on to what the current conversations that the new or full moon is having with the rest of the sky, to give it really its true character and true identity of what we're being asked to look at in this very here and now moment. So before we pull up the chart, let's go ahead and just talk about what a new moon is. So a new moon is when the sun and the moon are aligned in the sky and aligned on the zodiac wheel. And also, if I have not said, I'm a Western tropical zodiac astrologer, and I utilize whole sign house system. So that is the information that you'll be getting from me in this. So it's when new moons are when the sun and the moon are aligned in the sky. And this is a time when we, typically set new intentions or new beginnings are coming into our life, things like that. And it is because the sun represents who we are. It represents our ego. It represents who we are at our core, who we came in this world to be, and represents kind of our innermost desires, our innermost being, who we're learning to embody in this lifetime. And then the moon represents our emotions, and our comfort and our safety and things of that nature. So when the moon and the sun are aligned, we're, our head and our hearts, our head and our emotions are kind of aligned. And so that's where we're focused. That's where a lot of our focus is. So that means that's a good time to, when we're in alignment, to really focus and set new intentions, making sure that our mind and our emotions are in alignment with where we want to go next. And And it's also, new moons can be a time of endings as well, right? In order to start something new, sometimes something has to end. So, but it's this dark period of planting the seeds. We aren't seeing the fruition yet. That's what the new moon is, or the full moon. The new moon is when we're here to plant seeds and set those intentions for where we want to go next. Okay, so next, once we have an understanding of what the new moon is, then we look to see what sign it is in. And this month, this first new moon of 2026 is in the sign of Capricorn. And Capricorn is a cardinal earth sign, so it is more of it's a feminine sign as well. So it's receptive in nature, but it's cardinal. It wants to act, it wants to move forward, it wants to do new things, and it is earth as well, so it's very grounded. So some of the symbol of it is the goat, right? So which is a sign of an ambitious climb to the top and the capacity for quiet endurance. So some of the descriptors are, it is a sign of maturity and responsibility. It can sometimes be cynical, but it is ambitious. It can be solitary, confined. They are Capricorn is conservative and like a planner energy, and it is very focused and hardworking. It is, where we put in the hard work for things. It likes to act strategically and aim for practical achievements, and kind of represents our professional success. Likes to patiently and with quiet endurance toward a clear target before moving swiftly on to the next task. Also generally a rule follower. It's a sign that understands the rules, and probably one of the signs that created the rules. And it seeks tangible with an earth sign. It seeks tangible accomplishments, and it tends to be organized and reliable. It is a sign where status and position are key. You can expect things wherever this falls in your chart too. You can expect things to be tough, but it's where you happily knuckle down, and you have to feel that you've earned your position, kind of. You make your own way, preferring not to rely on others, and it's a sign of being independent and good at maintaining boundaries. Capricorn loves the boundaries, and it needs a sense of purpose. Without a clear aim, structure, or sense of practical achievement, this is where depression can set in. So purposeful work is a key for this sign's energy. On the other hand, it can be, on a negative side, it can be hampered by a system that's too rigid, or if there's too much of a sense of obligation. So that is something to consider. When planets are in this sign, they will act with maturity, and they'll be aware of tradition and what might be socially acceptable. And then in the houses, whatever house this falls in for you, this is also where you show maturity and seek respect from others, and where you act with purpose and need or naturally have a clear sense of structure. So when you think about a new moon in this area, having our sun and our moon aligned and wanting to, this is where we want to set our new intentions, set our new goals. We want them to be very tangible, realistic. We want to make sure they have boundaries, and it's not that we are necessarily right. It's new beginnings. So we are in this, which we'll get into here shortly when we look at the chart, but we are still in this phase, collectively and individually, of tearing down old systems. So this is really the new beginning point of figuring out what new systems we want to build and bring with us into the future, and how can we build the structure that we are looking for, because we do still need, there's a lot of chaos in the world in the destruction, but we need boundaries, we need a container to kind of rebuild things at the same time that things are being torn down. And that is a lot of what this new moon is all about. So next we start building on, that's what overall new moon in Capricorn is about. But this particular new moon, we look to the conversations that the new moon is having with the other planets, and that's what gives this new moon its uniqueness to the time that we are living in right now. So I've pulled up the chart, so now this is where we are going to build it step by step. So we have the new moon, just to reiterate, right here at 28 degrees of Capricorn. So just the fact that it is at 28 degrees does indicate that there is, closure happening. At the last degrees of the signs is kind of when we have built up the maturity in that sign. We've learned the lessons of that sign. And we are getting ready to let things go that we don't need to carry forward with us. But also, taking the lessons that we have learned that are going to be beneficial for us to carry with us into the future. So there is a lot of that letting go, releasing at these final degrees in order to make room for the new things to be able to thrive and come up. Before you plant new seeds, you need to do the weeding, and this is the combination of that energy, especially being in the final degrees of Capricorn here. So then as we start adding on to the conversation, the first thing you'll see is that the moon and the sun are in a conjunction with Mercury and Mars, which are also in a conjunction at 26 degrees of Capricorn. So we have this stellium of 4 planets, the 2 luminaries and 2 planets, but they're considered planets in Western tropical zodiac astrology. We have the stellium in Capricorn, and Venus was just here as well. Venus just yesterday moved into Aquarius. So we had 5 planets here leading up to this new moon. And right now, at the time of the new moon, with the 4 planets here, that is pretty unique. It's a unique configuration, especially having had those 5 planets here. It is very unique to have all of them together because they move at different rates. It's more common to have Venus and Mercury pretty close to the sun, not always in the same sign, but to get Mars in there at the same time is as a very unique thing, and it does not happen frequently at all, like at all. And you can look to my earlier video where I discuss that. But so that right there in and of itself indicates the power and the magnitude of this new moon that we are moving through. And so the Mercury represents our mind and our communication and our thought processes and the information that we're taking in, as well as the information, that we're giving out and speaking our truth and speaking our mind. And it also indicates travel and like auto industries and things like that. And then Mars is our willpower, our motivation. It can also represent like those negative emotions, right? Like anger and jealousy and things like that. Mars is also the warrior spirit. It is where we are willing to fight for the things that we are willing to fight for. So we have all this energy combined in the sign of Capricorn, which, as we discussed, is like a sign of maturity and boundaries and wanting to build things for the future. So kind of how I see this is on 2 aspects. On an individual and kind of collective level, I see this as us, like I said in the beginning, as us trying to figure out where our stability, where we can get our footing, where we can get solid ground underneath us as the world continues to be more chaotic and as structures continue to fall, right? Because that's the other thing with all of this, which we'll get into the aspects here really quick. But with all of this energy, right, all these personal planets in Capricorn, which is the sign of structure, it is very much how we are building our own life, like the structure in our own life, but also the structures that we've been beholden to, whether by choice or not. That is what this energy is representing. And with it being at the final degrees, it's kind of representing the destruction of the old and the building in the new. And we're at this transition point of that, right? With it representing everything, like with Venus, which was just here, and we'll talk more about Venus in a second, but Venus representing, financial institutions, relationships, how we relate with others. Venus can also represent contracts and obligations, and things like that. And, we can see the financial institutions and our relationships with other countries and things like that changing in big ways. And then you have Mercury, which, like I said, is travel. The auto industry is collapsing. Our, air... airplanes and all modes of transportation are kind of going through changes and renovations, and with the auto industry, a bit of collapse and things like that, kind of related to financing as well. And then, Mars can be the warrior spirit, can be war. Mars literally represents war, and there's certainly a lot of that in the collective. And there's both, with nations, wars, but also wars within, the different sides or whatever side you fall on. And we're still being divided rather than realizing that it more than, left versus right, blue versus red, things like that. It's more of a us versus the elite, right? Like, we need to learn how to come together. They're the ones that are keeping us, separate and fighting each other and things like that. So there's all this structure, this decomposition of these things, and this Capricorn energy is also wanting us to figure out how to build up as all these things come down. And in our more personal life, right, Venus represents our finances and our relationships. And so throughout this month, if you've been paying attention, right, these planets, these personal planets, have all had a rebirth, a new beginning themselves on their own right in the sign of Capricorn when they've made conjunctions with the sun. We've also had Mars and Venus make a conjunction. They've been rebirthing and planting new seeds of new cycles, right? And so we're not yet to the point where we're seeing the fruition, or even knowing what these new seeds that we're planting mean. We just know that we're in a time of serious transition, serious transformation. And so we're planting the seeds and starting new cycles the best we know how, trying to give them a solid foundation by tearing down the old foundations first. So we're in this midway process that is slightly chaotic, slightly confusing, and this new moon is helping us to kind of gain our footing, gain our bearings, and trying to plant the seeds in clean earth, right? So then we look too at 28 degrees, Venus here, like I said, just yesterday moved into the sign of Aquarius, and it's here in a conjunction with Pluto. Pluto is the planet of transformation. And so what we're going to be having shortly after this new moon is, as all these personal planets move from Capricorn into Aquarius, number one, this very rare stellium of these planets moving together is going to be moving together into Aquarius, which is the sign of breaking out of tradition, doing things differently, where you want to break out of the box. And look, Aquarius is very forward thinking. It's the hopes for the future. It's how to make the future better. And, Venus here is the first one to make it in. So it's kind of, maybe we're going to see transformations in our financial institutions and our relationships and contract law and things like that first. But as it conjuncts Pluto, that is the sign or the planet of things that were hidden coming to light. So we're going to have, as these planets make conjunctions with Pluto, we're going to have a lot more truths coming to light as well. But we're kind of at this new moon phase, gaining the footing for that. And but Venus is leading the way with the financials of our own individual selves, as well as, the world at large. But, at this new moon, we're in Capricorn, which is the sign of work, and Venus having just entered into Aquarius, which is thinking outside of the box. I think that's one of the things we're being called to look at, is, especially with its conjunction with Pluto, is how do we transform? Like, we're all tired of working at jobs that we hate and being basically a slave to the system, a slave to these taxes, a slave to all these things. We are a slave to our government, right? And we have no joy in the work that we're doing. And so how do we redefine work? How do we redefine our relationships? How do we redefine our relationship with work and our finances and the things? Venus also represents simply the things that we value, the things that we find beautiful, both on a physical plane as well as like an emotional plane. So that is a lot of what this new moon is about as well. And the fascinating thing is that the ruler of this new moon, as well as the ruler of this Venus and Pluto in Aquarius, is Saturn. Saturn is the ruler of Capricorn, and it is the traditional ruler of Aquarius. So Saturn is a key player in the focus of this, right? After we look at the relationships that this new moon is having, we also look to see what the ruling planet of that sign of Capricorn is doing. And it is, this new moon, number one, is in a sextile to its ruler, giving it more power and more importance, I guess you could say, and more just sextile is a very supportive relationship. It's very much being supported. And Saturn, as you know, is and has been in the sign of Pisces, and it is conjunct Neptune here in Pisces. And so, at the final degrees, again, talking about this releasing, and this is the final degree of the zodiac. So this is really, really talking about and hinting at the importance of letting go, right? Saturn represents structures, it represents boundaries, it represents institutions, and Pisces is the sign of like compassion and universal love, and can also be the sign of where boundaries are lacking, right? It's that in between this world and the next. And so we've been doing a lot of work here on how we tear down the systems and the stabilities that and institutions that have been a part of our culture, a part of our world, for hundreds, if not thousands of years. How do we tear those down while while building up, right? Neptune is dissolving the boundaries that are no longer serving us, that are no longer doing us any good, both within our own personal lives as well as the collective. But on the flip side, Saturn is helping us see discernment and have discernment with where we've been deceived, which is Neptune energy, and Pisces energy, that deception, that, inability, since there's a lack of boundaries, that inability to see things clearly. Saturn is helping us see things clearly so that we know where we're being deceived and what to do about it. So with this, this new moon is creating this mini grand trine, which has been in the background. Like this mini grand trine I've been talking about a lot. This mini grand trine is I've been calling the divine mini grand trine because it's with all the outer planets, Uranus, Saturn, and Neptune, and Pluto. And now we have all the personal planets involved in this mini grand trine too at the time of this new moon. And this is pretty much, other than this Chiron healing, this is pretty much all the energy that is going on at this time. We are so focused at this new moon on tearing down and building up. What structures need to go? What are we done with? What are we so exhausted with? And how can we get rid of it? How can we see through the deception that has been there for so long? How can we get the clarity that we need to finish tearing down? How do we know how to tear down? And then how can we plant seeds of what we want to create in the future? And that's where this Pluto and Venus conjunction, along with this new moon, is coming into play, is starting to have the rest of the truths come to light, right? With the sextile here with Pluto, bringing more truths to light that we need to see, and starting the transformation with our relationships, with our value system, right? Venus is our value system. So getting our value system figured out first. What do we no longer value? Where are we no longer placing importance on things? And what are we finding important to move forward? And how do we start building on that? And so it's beautiful, again, because Saturn is the ruler of this Capricorn and this Aquarius energy. And then the modern ruler of Aquarius is Uranus, which is in this as well. And Uranus is the planet of, again, similar to Aquarius, doing things out of the box. So Aquarius is very much this energy of, Saturn with the structure, but Uranus with doing things differently, doing things in a way that hasn't been done, doing it in a brand new way that might be a little shocking to what has been. So it's very much this energy of bringing forward the structure and the organization and things like that work from the past, and getting rid of what doesn't, throwing away what doesn't, and seeing things from a new angle and doing things differently. And so we'll get back to Saturn and Neptune in a second. But so all this new moon energy is in a beautiful sextile, like I said, to Uranus over here in Taurus. And Taurus also, right, Venus rules Taurus. And Taurus is about our financial institutions, our resources, our material resources, anything that's in the ground. So that can include like oil and coal and natural gas and things like that. But it also is our finances, our financial institutions, our food systems, especially agriculture, things of that nature. And Uranus is here helping us shake things up. Like, do we really, in agriculture, right? Do we really want GMO seeds? How can we get back to, growing our own food instead of focusing on growing lawns for aesthetics and things like that. Can we grow our own food? Can we sustain ourselves? How do we sustain ourselves? How do we sustain ourselves financially? How do we bring value and joy and things like that back into our finances in one way or another? How do we get rid of the monetary system, which has lost all meaning, and build a new financial system that is not led by the oligarchs and things like that? Like, how do we regain our sovereignty and decentralization and things like that, and do things differently, right? Do things differently with this Uranus energy. How do we break it down and build it back up? So that is beautiful that those are all in a trine and very supportive. And then Uranus is in a sextile to this Saturn and Neptune, as well as all of these planets right here. So this is powerful, powerful, powerful energy. And the focal point of all this energy in the divine mini grand trine is with, right? It's all pointing at this Saturn and Neptune, which we've been doing so much work with, and we're going to continue. If you've listened to my videos before, you'll understand that this mini grand trine is going to be with us through 2029, which is an anomaly itself, right? That's crazy. Patterns don't hang on that long. This is like the divine support helping us gain the stability and helping us keep moving forward with the transitions that we're going through, because it's that big and we need that much support, because the changes that we're making are that huge. We're changing and dismantling and getting rid of, like I said, hundreds, if not thousands of years of where we've been and what's not working, and rediscovering what will work in the future, and rediscovering ancient wisdom, which we'll talk about in a second as well. So the focus is, clearly on this Capricorn energy, because that is where all these planets are, but they are pointing to, the ruler of it, combining this energy of the tearing down of the old, seeing through the illusions, building structure that is not based in illusion, but based on clarity. And Neptune is the delusion energy. It's where we can be deceived and things like that, but it is also where we dream things into existence. It's the dreamer energy. Same with Pisces. So this Saturn is trying to ground in. While it's destructing, it's also trying to ground in what is the best thing possible, right? And with the Pisces energy, we're dreaming into that compassion for all, that universal love, seeing how we are all one and how we are all connected, and how can we build society around that knowledge that we are all one. And I think that is part of why the North Node is here as well, is seeing that we are all one and letting go of this idea that we are, Virgo likes to, Virgo is a very important energy, but it likes to separate things and see how everything is different, and we're being called to kind of let go of seeing all the division between all of us, and instead looking to how we are all connected, how we are all splinters of the same material, whatever you want to call it, God, the universe. We are all children of that, and we need to start seeing each other as that in order to build this society, this world that we want to be a part of, because I think most of us don't want to be a part of the world that exists right now. So that, with the North Node and South Node in these signs, that's what we're being called to anchor in as well, is getting rid of the continuous thought of how are we all different? What ways can we fight? What ways can I say that we are different and therefore we're not compatible or whatever, and instead focusing on how we are all the same and how we truly at our core want the same thing. We want to be seen, we want to be loved, we want to be acknowledged, and we want also to be left alone as well, right? Like, we want to see that we're all one, but we also want to have our sovereignty, which I think is why this new moon is also calling in this Chiron energy. So with bringing in this Chiron energy, right, this is my daughter Piper. She's saying hi. She loves being in the videos. But so bringing in this Chiron energy, all these personal planets are squaring Chiron. And this Chiron in Aries is our wounded I am, right? It's where we've held ourselves small for the sake of others. It's where we've been afraid to stand in our own sovereignty. So at the same time that we are being called to see how we are all connected, we also are being called to learn to love and be willing to stand in our own truth and be seen for who we fully are, without shame, without guilt, without, keeping ourselves down for the sake of others. And we're all healing that wound and doing this reprogramming and want our sovereignty. We want to see how we're all connected and have this love and this compassion for everybody, and not nitpick and be judgmental of everybody, but we want to all be seen for who we are, right? Instead of being seen for our differences and having them tear us apart, we want to be seen for who we are, and seeing that who we are and our uniqueness is what makes us beautiful. And what makes us valuable pieces. Like, we were all sent here and born, and we all have a purpose. We all add something to the whole that only us have, and to be able to recognize that. To be able to recognize that we are like this giant puzzle, and the whole would not be the same if one puzzle piece was missing, and realizing that we are that important, that we're that small, but that important all at the same time. And that's what a lot of this Chiron healing energy is. And the square is helping us recognize, I think, how to integrate into this I am healing, and how to claim ourselves, right? Like, our doing the work on our relationships and our finances and our communication and our thought processes and our passions and desire with Mars. Those are all squaring, as well as the sun and the moon. Those are all squaring this Chiron, leading us to do this healing. Love you too. And then this is also fascinating to me, because it's bringing in, this Chiron is bringing in Jupiter. So we have all planets involved in this this new moon, right? Everything is aligned, everything is talking. And squares with Jupiter, although they can be a little tense, right? Same with the square to Chiron. Like, this square to Chiron with all these personal planets, it's a little sore, it's a little triggering, but we are, as these planets have been making the exact square, they're already done making the exact square, but it's giving us a chance to, after they've been reprogrammed with the conjunction with the sun and that they've had with each other, it is giving us a chance, as we're being triggered and feeling our wounds of where we've been small and things like that. It's giving us an opportunity to look at things from a new perspective and choosing to respond differently rather than react. So that's kind of the energy we've been coming from, and we're still under this kind of tension. You might still be facing some triggers and facing some, like, how do I embody who I want to be going forward, and how do I be more comfortable in my own skin, right? And so then we have this square with Jupiter as well, and the square with Jupiter Squares are typically uncomfortable, but with Jupiter, they're not as much because Jupiter is a benefic planet. But with it being retrograde, the energy is still very internal. So it's how can we maintain, in Cancer, our emotional safety, our emotional well being? How can we expand our emotional well being? How can we, and with Jupiter retrograde, I have been saying that the way I'm really feeling this energy is kind of bringing back, since Capricorn, or since Cancer also represents ancient, ancestry. I'm looking, and Jupiter represents wisdom, and retrograde means kind of going back or going internal. I'm kind of feeling this as bringing back ancient wisdom, ancient, looking back to ancient traditions, and bringing truths that have been hidden to these things, so that we can bring the ancient wisdom into the future, right? Rediscover with this, the truths coming out with this Pluto energy, bringing back the truths of the ancient, bringing that into the mix. And with the square, it's not necessarily tense, but it does, Jupiter does expand things. So it is expanding the energy of this healing, expanding the emotional healing. So really processing, our emotional well-being, basically, as well as, expanding the emotional safety. Cancer also represents how we grew up, where we came from, like the programming that we have. So expanding our awareness of that, and guiding us with this Aries, Chiron and Aries, how to heal any wounding, how to let go of any programming that's keeping us held back and things like that. And that's what a lot of this releasing energy here is as well. Letting go of the energy that's the self-sabotaging behavior that's been keeping us back, and reclaiming our truth, and doing so in a way that is keeping us emotionally safe and stable. So one other thing to note before I sum this up. So when the planets are exactly conjunct with the sun, it is, the birthing of those new seeds, and it's really illuminating and shining a light and bringing clarity to whatever that planet represents, right? But then when it's close to the sun, within like a degree or two, maybe even up to 3, I can't remember exactly, those planets are called combust. So they can't really be seen yet. And so like with Venus, for example, this is the time period that Venus can't be seen in the sky. It's transitioning from like morning star to evening star, or vice versa. And same thing with Mercury and Mars, and so it also, represents this time of planting these new seeds, but we're not quite sure. We won't be able to see them growing. We aren't quite sure. Maybe it's still a little bit fuzzy on exactly what we're planting. And that is a lot this Pisces and Neptune energy as well. We aren't quite sure what it is that we're planting. We know that we're planting good things, and we are setting our intentions. We're getting clarity on the things that we don't want, which is half the battle a lot of times, and dreaming up these ideas of what we do want, but it can't quite be seen yet. It's still in the dark. It's deep in the dark, deep in the ground, being planted. So that is something to consider too. So we should, as these planets move a little bit further away from the sun, we should be starting to have a little bit more clarity of what the seeds that are being planted now are are doing and what we need to do with them from there. So to sum it up, this is a very big period of letting go, and building. Like we're really in this, especially before, because starting next week, starting in a couple days, all of these personal planets are going to be making exact conjunctions with Pluto, which is going to be huge energy. A lot more truths are going to be coming to light, which is necessary to, again, know what we are wanting to build. But we, are starting to plant the seeds. We're continuing the destruction of the old, the rebuilding of the new. And as all these planets come into conjunction with Pluto, I would think there will be a lot more things going on in the world. Pluto is also power struggles and things like that. So there could be a lot more of the powers that be trying their hardest to hold on to what has been around for thousands of years, hundreds of years, as we are trying to destroy it. So there could be and more truths coming out that they just can't hide. They can't deceive us anymore. So that is going to be happening. And all of this energy will move into this Aquarius. The stellium will move into Aquarius, where we are going to start, really figuring out how to break out of the box, we're setting the foundation for it here and figuring out what foundations we want to bring with us, what our values are. And then as this next week, as these planets all come into conjunction with Pluto, we're really going to start to see more truths and really start to figure out how to break out of the box and maybe get some more clarity there. And then Neptune is going to be moving into Aries on the 26th, which is a huge deal as well, which I'll be doing a video about that. But that's when this energy is really going to start moving forward and, both more collapse and more building up as we go along as well. So that is really what this new moon is about. This new moon is really setting the tone for the entire new year and perhaps even the next thousands of years. That is how big and how rare the astrology is that's going on right now. So you were born for this. You chose to be here at this time, as chaotic and as confusing as it is. We are being guided, and you were born for this, and this world needs you and your uniqueness. So don't be afraid to shine your light and shine it bright. To look to see where this is falling for you, where this is hitting, where you can concentrate your energy in your own chart. Focus on the four houses. Well, focus on the Capricorn and Aquarius energy, wherever those two signs are falling in your chart, the Pisces energy, and the Aries and Taurus. Really, this whole quadrant of your chart is kind of where you want to focus your energy, and you may be getting some hidden gifts that either are returning from the past or that may not be fully seen yet from this Cancer area of your chart. So look to your chart to see what houses these signs occupy, and that'll kind of give you a guide of where this energy is being focused within your own life. So that should give you a clue as to what is changing for you personally and how you personally can help shape the new world that we are all moving into and hoping for. I hope this new moon finds you well, and I look forward to hearing from you in the future. Go ahead and drop a comment, like, a subscribe in the box below. Any way that you can interact with me will help my tiny channel grow, and I would greatly appreciate it. And then as well, I do have a it's called Your First Astrology course going on right now. It's a 6-week course. I am trickling out the videos. I'm about to get the third one out. So that is going on. If you are interested, link will be in the description box below. And then I'm also trying to get a Patreon membership started up, not only where we learn astrology concepts and how to read charts, and focusing on like a topic of learning each month and getting your own natal chart read on whatever that particular topic is. But I'm also thinking about throwing in there, if you're interested, and comment if you would be, looking at charts of like famous people, dead or alive, and taking the topics that we're learning and applying them toward their charts, or doing example chart readings on them. Comment below if that's something that you would be interested in, and something that would get you to join the Patreon membership as well. Or give me any other ideas of what you would like to see in that, and that would have you consider joining. I'm also going to put a link in the description box below for my newsletter. I'd love to have you sign up for that. But otherwise, I will see you here for the next video. Have a great day.